Hey guys, it's Miss Johnson and I'm here to bring you our notes for Unit 5 Notes 2. Today we're going to be talking about how to find the mean from a probability distribution table. So yesterday we introduced probability distribution tables, talking about how you had the list of all possible outcomes with their corresponding probabilities and how those corresponding probabilities add up to 1. Today we're going to talk about how to find the mean from those tables. So in example 1, it says find the mean in the probability distribution table. So finding a mean here is pretty simple. Basically what you need is you need the value, whatever the value is that you're looking at, times its probability all the way down the table. So we're going to take each value times its corresponding probability, and then when we get to the end, we're going to go ahead and find the sum of all of those products. So that's kind of our process there. So if I go through and multiply, I take 2 times 0.32, which is 0.64. The next one down, 3 times 0.04, 0.12. 4 times 0.38, 1.52. 5 times 0.17. Some of you may remember finding a mean from a frequency table. It's a pretty similar concept, except that each value is singular. It's not a range. Those frequency tables were a range where you had to find those class marks first. You would find the middle of whatever your interval it was over here at the x, and then you would multiply it by the frequency and you would add all those up. So it's kind of a similar concept. We take the value times its corresponding probability, then we're going to go ahead and add all of these things up. So if I add up 0.64 plus 0.12 plus 1.52 plus 0.85 plus 0.54, I get 3.67. Now, for my mean, what you want to pay attention to is, did you get a mean that's actually in your table? 3.67 is about here-ish, just below the 4, and that makes sense in our table. We have this high probability low down here at 2 that's pulling us down a little bit, but then your probability at 4 is your biggest one, so you should be pretty close to that 4 range. Basically, you want to get a mean that is in fact inside your probability distribution table. That happened with the frequency table a lot. A lot of people would find means that weren't even in the interval of values. So then it was like, how do you have that as a mean? Remember that mean is a measure of central tendency, so it should be kind of somewhere in the middle, okay? Let's get the next example. So we're going to go through this one, and again, multiply all the way across, all the way down, and see what you get there. So if I multiply all the way down, here's what I have. Some of you are familiar with using the table function in your calculator. There is a table function where you can plug this into your L1 and this into your L2, and then you can multiply across to your L3. If you've never used that function in your calculator, it's okay. You don't need to. You just go ahead and do the math all the way down. It doesn't take all that long. So 6 times 0.19 is 1.14. 7 times 0.18, 1.26. 8 times 0.07, 0.56. 9 times 0.12, 1.08. 10 times 0.06 is going to be 0.6. 11 times 0.1 is going to be 1.1. And then 12 times 0.14, 1.68. And 13 times 0.3, 0.39. So then I want to go ahead and add all of those up. So 0.55 plus 1.14 plus 1.26 plus 0.56 plus 1.08 plus 0.6 plus 1.1 plus 1.68 plus 0.39. Okay, I end up here with 8.36 for a mean. And again, I should be somewhere kind of in the middle of my table. 8.36 is right about there. It makes sense. My probabilities are pretty evenly distributed throughout. I've got these down here that are pretty high, but this one's also pretty high. These up here get a little bit higher, so I should be somewhere right in the middle, and I am. So my mean, and remember that X bar is the same thing as mean. That's just our notation. So my mean here is 8.36. Let's take a look at the next one. Okay, and this one, the first thing my eye is drawn to is the fact that I have a hole here. So I need to figure out what the probability of 4 is before I move on. Remember that your total for the table should equal 1.0. So if I go ahead and add up what I know, 0 plus 0.11 plus 0.15 plus 0.25 plus 0.13 plus 0.05 plus 0.03, and see what I get. Plus 0.05 plus 0.03. I get 0.72 there, and then 1 minus 0.72 is going to be 0.28. That is my missing probability. And then I'm going to go ahead and find the products all the way across. So multiply all the way down and get those products. So obviously 0 times 0 is 0. 1 times 0.11 is 0.11. 2 times 0.15 is 0.3. 3 times 0.25 is going to be 0.75. 4 times 0.28, I don't know that in my head. 1.12 there. 5 times 0.13, 0.65. This is going to be 0.3, and that's going to be 0.21. Did a lot of those in my head. Hopefully they're accurate. If I add that up, 1 plus 0.3 plus 0.75 plus 1.12 plus 0.65 plus 0.3 plus 0.21. I end up with 3.44. And again, I am right dead in the middle. These are my highest probabilities, so it makes sense that I should be right in the middle somewhere there. So that is my mean for 4. Example 5, I'm missing a probability here, so let's add up what we know. You know that the whole table should equal 1.0, so let's see what we have so far. 0.12 plus 0.33 plus 0.2 plus 0.15 plus 0.11 plus 0.04 plus 0.03. And I end up with 0.98 there. And then 1 minus that 0.98 is going to be 0.02. So 0.02 is my probability for 7. Now I'm going to go ahead and multiply all the way down and get the products all the way down and see what we have. 0 times 0.12 is still 0, still 0.33. That's going to be 0.4. That's going to be 0.45. That's going to be 0.44. That's going to be 0.2. That's going to be 0.18. And that's going to be 0.14. Add those up. 0.44 plus 0.2 plus 0.18 plus 0.4. 2.14. Now, notice that your mean is a little bit lower here, but if you look at your probability, well, first thing, it's still in the values. 2.14 is still in the range of my values there. But the thing I recognize is that these 3 are my highest probabilities. All these up here are a lot lower, well, in this 0.15. So these low probabilities are my higher ones. These probabilities up at the top are a lot lower. So that's going to naturally pull my mean towards the top of my table. So it makes sense to me that my mean would fall in here because that's where your highest probability is. All right, so let's go ahead. Last example here. Actually, our last example is going to lead us into notes 3. So this is just kind of a preview and a reminder of how we multiply fractions. When we get into notes 3 and 4, we're going to be doing a lot of multiplying of fractions. And so I'm just giving you a little reminder of what we actually do when we multiply whole numbers and fractions and add and subtract and common denominators and all that. So that's what's happening here in example 5. So let's look at this first one. It says 2 times 736 plus 6 times 2 out of 36 minus 3 times 224 out of 36. Remember that multiplication comes before addition and subtraction, so I have to take care of this and this and this before I take care of the addition and the subtraction. So The other thing to remember is that whole numbers are over 1 when they're in a fraction form. So when I multiply these two things together, I'm multiplying 2 times 7, which is 14, over 1 times 36, which is 36. Then I'm multiplying 6 times 2, which is 12, over the 1 times 36, which is still 36. Then multiplying the 3 times 24, which is 72, over the 36, which is 1 times 36 is still 36. Okay, so I took care of the multiplication of all of my whole numbers in the fractions. Now I need to add these. When we add fractions, we do not add denominators. I'm going to say it again. When we add and subtract fractions, we do not add and subtract denominators. The denominator stays the same. So right away, I know my denominator is 36 because I've got 36, 36, 36. They're all common, which is good because I can't do anything with the tops unless the denominator is common. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of the tops now. 14 plus 12 minus 72. 14 plus 12 minus 72 gives me negative 46. So negative 46 out of 36, which translates into this decimal, negative 1.28 roughly. That's what I'm looking at there. So this is negative 1.2777, and that goes on and on and on. I round it to the hundredths place per the directions, and I get negative 1.28 there. All right, so let's take a look at the next one. 12 times 4 out of 16, plus 7 times 3 out of 16, minus 5 times 10 out of 16. Again, notice that your denominators are all common. That's good. You right away know that this is going to be 16 for a denominator. The next thing is multiply your numerators. That's 48. That's 21. That's a negative 50. So I'm really looking at 48 plus 21 minus 50 for the numerator, which gives me 19. So I end up with 19. Denominator stays the same. When I add and subtract fractions, my denominator does not change. So 19 out of 16, what does that give me for a decimal? I have 1.1875. If I round it to the hundredths place per the directions, that's 1.19 for a decimal there. Let's take a look at this next one. So I have the two pieces here. I kind of have this piece first. 5 times 8 out of 36 plus 8 times 22 out of 36 plus 0 times 2 out of 36. Whatever that answer is, I'm going to put here, and then I'm going to subtract 2 after, just the whole number 2. So this is kind of a two-step question. I got to do this first part over here first. So this is 40. This is, 8 times 22, I don't know in my head, 176. And then plus 0, that's 40 plus 176 plus 0, because 0 times 2 is still 0. 40 plus 176 plus 0, obviously, 216. So I have 216 out of 36. Actually, I'm going to bring that down below and get the decimal up there. 216 out of 36 is what I'm looking at. Let's get rid of you for a second. If I type that into my calculator, 216 divided by 36, I end up with 6. This thing here is equal to 6. So now I've got 6 right there, and 6 minus 2 is equal to 4. Nice whole numbers in that question. Again, let's take a look at the next one. So I have this piece of just the multiplication of all these fractions and whole numbers first. Whatever that answer is going to go here, and then I'm going to subtract 2 after. So if I go through and multiply, 15 times 14 gives me 210. 8 times 25 gives me 200. And then again, I'm at a 0 plus 0 times 36, which is just 0. So that's 410, and it's out of my common denominator, which is 54. Okay, so 410 divided by 54, that's 7.59 there. And then if I take 7.59 and subtract 2, I get 5.59. Okay. All right, so that's just a review for you on operations with fractions, which again, we're going to use operations with fractions in lesson 3 and lesson 4 quite a bit. So that's why we did a little practice today, just to kind of get ready for that tomorrow. So thanks for tuning in to our notes for today, and I will catch you next time.